What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back for another live stream for you guys this morning. And today we're going to be discussing the perfect weekend for Tottenham. Absolutely, it was a brilliant weekend. Obviously, our three main rivals in the top four race all dropping points. Arsenal losing at home to Brighton, Man United losing away to Everton, and West Ham losing away, was it away or at home, to Brentford? But either way, all three of them lost, with Tottenham picking up a 4-0 win against Aston Villa. So was it the most perfect weekend for Tottenham?
Tons of results. Couldn't have gone any better, could it? Absolutely brilliant in terms of the top four race, how we've now propelled ourselves into such a strong position. We're now 6 points ahead of Man United with a far better goal difference. Arsenal are getting results you didn't expect. You know, they've been so consistent before these past few games, and that was the whole point of Arsenal's running, that, you know, as long as they stay consistent, they could be within a chance of getting results in those more difficult games and put themselves in a good position. But at the moment, you know, with those more difficult games coming up, they need to get results in those now. And obviously, look, West Ham, I never really believed they were still in it. I think their loss to Brentford pretty much confirms that they're going to be not playing in Champions. Well, let's say win Europa League, they're not going to be in top four next season now, definitely. So it's all on us now. We just need to make sure that we stay consistent. And even though we might lose to Liverpool, you know, we've got a difficult North London derby, if we could just win the games we should, that's it. It's within our grasp. It's in our hands, and we're the teams at the moment. We're the team at the moment has all the momentum, not just from results-wise, performance-wise as well. We're playing such brilliant football. Where anything that comes away, all the challenges we seem to be batting away at the moment, we're completely destroying teams. 4-0, 5-0. As you said, a month ago, Arsenal were 7 points better at goal difference than us.
Yeah.
And now we're 10 goals ahead of them after about 5 games.
It's a crazy turnaround. It's a crazy turnaround. And in that time, Arsenal had played 26 games. They were in the top four. 51 points they are on. We played 27 games. We were on 45 points. We were sitting in 8th in the league.
So we're 6 points behind them when they had a game in hand.
Yeah.
And now we're 3 points above them.
But not only that, we were also 7 goals behind them.
Yeah. I mean, it's mad how quickly it's all changed. 4 wins in a row. We found our form. And I think it's rightly a lot of fans are getting very, very excited with, the prospect. But now, as with the circumstance and the landscape changing in the top four race as quickly as it's done, it's also changed expectations. So it's gone from a miracle or Spurs being the underdogs, and all of a sudden, after a couple games, we're now the big favourites at this point.
Yeah, I was watching a video.
And it comes with
last
different
night.
pressure.
I was watching a video last night from Rory, you know, the Chelsea fan Rory, and he did a little video about who are favourites for top four now. He completely wrote off Man United and West Ham, and they were talking about Spurs or Arsenal for the top four, and they went through to few different people. It was what's his name from the United View, a few other different like YouTubers from around the community.
Oh, I saw this video. Yeah. Thogden and these.
Yeah,
people,
Thogden was in it, and basically every single person said Spurs, apart from this one Arsenal fan at the end who wanted to say Spurs, but he just couldn't bring himself to say Spurs.
So he said Arsenal, and that was before the Brighton game.
Yeah,
that was before
that was before the Brighton game.
Yeah.
So I mean, after that Crystal Palace game, all of us were saying that Spurs are probably favourites now. But now, after this weekend, I think we're most definitely favourites now.
Yeah, and to be fair, look, if Arsenal keep pace with us, even keeping pace with us is going to be challenging for them with the fixtures they've got coming up. Their next 4 fixtures are Southampton away, Chelsea away, Man United at home, and then West Ham away. 4 very, very difficult fixtures where they probably need to win. I know our next 4 fixtures, or we have 3 in that time, don't we? Because they've got the game in hand. So our next 3 fixtures are Brighton at home, Brentford away, and Leicester at home. So the way we're playing, you wouldn't be surprised to win all 3 of them. But let's say we drop points in one of them being conservative. We'll probably drop points in one of those games. Let's say we draw to Brentford and win the other 2. Arsenal still probably need to win 3 out of those 4.
Yeah, with us to come after that as well. But
exactly.
To be fair, after that game, if if they are in touching distance, say before we play Liverpool, it's very likely that we can lose that Liverpool game, and they've got an easy game that weekend. They've got Leeds at home or something. So there is an opportunity there if they can keep in touching distance at that point.
Yeah, I think because we got Liverpool then Arsenal. So if we're like, say, they need to be probably 6 points, within 6 points of us from that Liverpool game, which is not completely beyond the realms of possibility. No. And then if we lose to Liverpool, they beat Leeds, then we go to North London derby, they need to win it. But then, so even then, because our goal difference is so stark now, they'll probably need another drop point somewhere in there as well.
A point ahead.
Exactly.
Goal difference is like a point.
Well, the way it is, yeah, because we're scoring goals for fun. Yeah. We're scoring I think that's a key to how we've been playing recently. Is I know for the last like 20 minutes or so, the games have been dead pretty much, and we have kind of taken it easy.
Exactly. We only play an hour now. We don't even play 90 minutes.
But we do seem to at least try and get a few more goals while we can, and we do end up usually getting one or two near the end. But yeah, we that's the key for these wins, is that we're being ruthless. We keep going forward and keep trying for more goals. We're not happy to like last season under Mourinho. We're not content just getting a goal and then sitting back and trying to defend it. We're always looking to score more goals, looking for opportunities to get more goals on the score sheet. And that has been key to boosting our goal difference. We could have easily, like for example, that Everton game, we could have easily just taken the 2-0, 3-0, but we kept going for more, you know. We made it 4 or 5, and that's why there's been such a big swing. And so even in that case, even if we are 6 points, even if we are 3 points above Arsenal going to North London derby, it's very possible that they could win that, and that we still be above them with games with Burnley and Norwich to come after that. 2 very winnable games. So
what's actually
the landscape is very difficult for Arsenal at this point.
But what's actually happened to them, Arsenal? Because they're on a great run of form. They were just getting by games by the odd goal, but they probably deserve to win most of those games anyway, even if they were just winning by the odd goal here and there. And then suddenly this Crystal Palace game comes. The first time we were in the top 4. Do you think it's literally just pressure that got to them, or is there something else happening?
I think injuries. First of all,
in that Palace game, there wasn't injuries. I mean, Tierney was injured. That was about it.
Tierney and Partey clearly was injured because he went off with he injured his thigh muscle, and he must have been playing with it for a while because in that game, because he was awful. He was terrible that game. That was not the Partey we've seen this season. And then he had that moment, didn't he, where he got robbed of the ball and he just gave up. He's like, I can't carry on. And then he got taken off. So I think he probably picked up an injury fairly early on in that game, I would guess, and then he played through it. A bit like how Doherty tried to stay on, and even though he was clearly, we'll talk about that in a minute, but he was clearly very injured, Doherty, even though he tried to carry on. I think probably similar for Partey. And I think these injuries are very important ones for Arsenal, because he doesn't even trust the backup left back in Tavares. They've played Xhaka left back on Saturday. Partey, it's not just so much that it's not so much that they have a drop off in quality in Lokonga. I actually don't think Lokonga's too bad. I think he's been decent. He's a decent young midfielder, but it's Partey was so integral to their system, and he's such an experienced player as well. He's one of their main players, Partey, when they're trying to beat the press and control games. He is vital to that, and he's after a difficult start to his career at Arsenal, he's really started to play over the past few months. Like he started to play at a really high level, like how he played at Atletico, and that injury is a big blow, because it means they lose that authority, I think, in the centre of midfield, because he was a fantastic defensive midfielder and a brilliant midfielder on the ball as well. He was really good at a bit like Moussa Dembele. He's so good at shielding the ball, and even when he's being pressed, he's actually pretty press resistant on his day when he's playing well. When he's not there, you saw on Saturday they were bullied in the centre by the Mbeumo who scored, Basuma. They were the ones bullying them in the centre, and that wouldn't have happened if Partey was fully fit and playing. I don't think. I think it would have been a different outcome.
It takes away from so many areas of the pitch for Arsenal as well when Partey's injured. As well as Tierney being out as well, because Xhaka has to move into left back, which leaves even more holes in the middle of the park. Odegaard gets dropped even deeper from attacking midfielder back to almost like a CDM role, and it just kind of makes a mess of everything they're trying to do.
I think Arteta was definitely guilty of overthinking his selection and all the injuries.
But he does this on a consistent basis when he's got these injuries. I mean, he's done this kind of thing that he's done against Brighton. He's done it so many times this season. And I feel like when things are going good, Arteta looks good and he looks like a genius at sometimes. But then when things are going bad, he just looks a bit clueless.
I just love that in his press conference, they were asking him, have you given up on top four yet? And like, not that. What did they ask? Did they ask him like, do you still believe you're going to get top four and stuff like that? And he's like, we're going to fight till the end, and we're going to do. It's just such a change from. Just a couple two games just before the Palace game. Well, obviously they were still favourites. They were in the driving seat, and all of a sudden he's getting questions like, "Do you still believe that you can get it?" And it's like that's how much it's changed over the past two games. And I think, those two games were very damaging though, because before they had a bit of leeway in that tough fixture list they did have a bit of leeway there where maybe they could afford to drop points to Chelsea and maybe West Ham or Man United, but now they don't have a lot of leeway at all.
Very damaging, these two defeats.
They don't have a lot of leeway because
I'm actually excited for Arsenal to play Southampton this weekend. I got this stat here. Crystal Palace hadn't won at home in 2022. #Hello Arsenal. Brighton hadn't won in their last 7 games, and that's 1 draw and 6 losses. #Hello Arsenal. Southampton have won none of their last 6 games and lost their last 4 in a row at home.
That's mad.
#Hello Arsenal.
And it will be a difficult game for Arsenal because Southampton have some very good players, and especially at home, they can be very attacking. They can be a very, very offensive team, and Arsenal at the moment with their problems, they've conceded 5 in their last 2 after having one of the best defences over the last few months. They now seem to be leaking goals left, right, and centre, and coming up against Southampton, I'm sure they can score against them, but it's whether they can keep them out.
Can they score? Because they can't seem to score against anyone really at the moment. I know they scored against Brighton, but a massively lucky goal.
It's true.
They're not scoring goals at the moment. Lacazette hasn't scored in 20 hours of football, and he's their striker.
Yeah, from open play. But they have quality in Odegaard, Smith-Rowe, Saka, Martinelli. These young players are good.
Without their midfield, Odegaard has to drop deep, and he's more or less taken out the game in a creative perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely what happened against Brighton. I'm sure he will. He's going to change it up against Southampton. He can't go again with the same thing. But anyway. It's going to be difficult for them, that game. And if they don't win that game and they're going into that difficult run of fixtures without a win in 3, it's going to be very difficult for them to rally themselves to get wins in those games, because that's exactly what they need. Talk about Man United. They lost to Everton. They look on the beach. They're 6 points behind us now, same games played, but obviously we have a far better goal difference. Everything seems to be falling apart for Man United at the moment as well. Rangnick is calling out the players after every game, it seems. Ronaldo smashing phones out of fans' hands, out of kids' hands. It was an Everton fan, but he's smashing phones out of their hands. They seem to be no unity there at the moment. And he seems to not know what his best 11 is. He changes it every single game, doesn't he? He changes formation and personnel every game, Rangnick. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to play it.
But again,
Bruno here, Rashford there.
What's happened in the Man United team? Because in the build-up to this Premier League season, everyone was talking about them as title challengers. They bring in a Galacticos summer, didn't they? With Varane, Ronaldo, had Cavani there. Who else did they bring in this summer? Sancho. You know what I mean? Some big players, some big money spent on wages there. What's happened with them?
I think, they had Ollie at the beginning of the season. I never thought he was going to be the long-term answer for them, and so it proved. I think they always need it. I think it's the management. I think they need a proper world-class manager in there. And I think right now...
They need a Conte.
Yeah, they need someone who's going to have the authority in the dressing room. Right now, Ollie, as much as he was a nice guy and people liked him, did he have the respect of a Conte, a Klopp or a Pep? Probably not. I don't think he ever did, because I don't think he was ever that calibre of manager. As much as he might, could argue did a decent job at United for who he is, he was never going to be the calibre to take them to titles and manage that kind of dressing room. And then obviously they did this very strange thing when sacking Ollie. Instead of saying, okay, we're going to look for a manager to come in now and propel us into top 4 and try as soon as possible to steady the ship, they said, we're gonna only look for an interim, and then we're going to look for a new manager next season. And
By doing that, they kissed the season goodbye.
Yeah, they pretty much exactly, that's exactly what they did. They pretty much told everyone they were kissing the season goodbye, which is a weird thing to do in November.
Yeah,
I think
very weird.
Yeah,
especially
considering
for a club like Manchester United.
I mean, how many weeks after we sacked Conte? We hired Conte. Was it a couple of weeks, maybe?
Literally, yeah.
So I mean, we haven't sacked off our season. I think it's a weird thing to do in November or early December, whenever it was when they sacked Ollie. I think it was November, to just say, look, we're going to scrap this season, even though they're still in the Champions League. They're still, they probably weren't too far off top 4 or whatever at that time. To say, look, we're just going to look for an interim, and they're paying the price for it. I think Rangnick, again, he hasn't been a manager for so long. I don't think he's a bad footballing mind or potentially even a manager. I just don't think he's the right man right now to lead United into top 4 because he's got no authority.
He has seemed a bit clueless at times.
But he's just got no authority in the dressing room. They know he's not going to be the manager next season. So I think subconsciously that plays on the players' minds. And it's not only that, it's also how he wants them to play. Because it's so... He's like trying to imprint this this intense pressing system on Man United. First of all, they don't have the players to do it, but by the by, he's trying to do that. And it's one thing if you're Pochettino doing that on a young set of players who are willing to follow your every order and willing to do it and willing to fight for you, right? Because they know Pochettino is going to be there for the foreseeable future. But why would you implement this system for a manager? Try to get this system perfect, this really intense pressing system, get it perfect, right? Well, I knew those managers not going to be there next year, and the new manager's probably going to want to implement a different system next season, right? He's not going to, or if it is Ten Hag, he's not going to be this intense pressing manager. He's going to be more Pep. I know Pep, they do press, but I'm saying he's going to be more possession-based, more trying to keep the ball, trying to be, more tiki-taka like our Ajax have been under Ten Hag. So what the players subconsciously probably feel like, why am I going to put in 110% into this system when the system's going to change in a few months' time?
But, to be fair to Man United, I mean, what could they have done? Because Ollie needed to go, let's be honest. Ollie did need to go. So do you give Ollie till the end of the season? Or do you bring in a manager that's, Ten Hag wasn't going to leave Ajax, Poch wasn't going to leave PSG halfway through a season. So which way do they go?
They screwed up.
What do they do?
They screwed up massively because they had they had the chance to get Conte and sack Ole and get Conte. And they had that chance just after they lost 5-0 to Liverpool. They decided for some, God knows why, they decided, no, we're going to give Ole one more chance. He beat Spurs, and then always when it happens is when you say to the manager, we're going to give you one more chance. You just know he's one more defeat away from the sacking. So why bother even doing that when you've just lost 5-0 to Liverpool? I thought that was absolutely madness from the United board, and it shows how they're run, to be honest. And they had, it was all the talk, wasn't it? There was Romano saying Conte was about to sign for United. It was all happening. Like, it literally was all happening, wasn't it? It was all the here we goes and everything. And then they decided last minute we're going to give him another chance. And then they beat Spurs, and we won that game. We've still, to this day, we have won that game. Because
was that our biggest win of the season?
Definitely that was our biggest win of the season. It was worth so much more than 3 points, that game. The fact that we got rid of Nuno and got Conte in the next day has changed our season. And I think the fact that we won that game, I think that game, us losing, means we'll probably finish above United. That game. And it's mad to think about the domino effect that game has had. But I think when we look back at the end of the season, we'll point to that game and say that's why we finished above United. It was that game.
I hope you got all your bets on with your Man United friends for this season.
I think I can't remember. I asked them, I was like, do we have a bet on? They were like, nah. I was like, oh, yeah, we do, don't we? But I can't remember if we put one on.
I messaged Andrew last week saying, are you still taking bets? He was like, no, the betting shop's closed now.
Exactly, closed shop. Of course it is. And I think Man United are paying the price. Look, you could argue, maybe in 2 or 3 years' time, you might be singing saying, fair play United, they foregoed this season, but they took Ten Hag and they backed him, and now look at them, they're challenging for the title, or they're winning leagues. But right now, all we can say is they purposely didn't forego the short term for the long term. And that's what it looks like. This is what it looks like. Foregoing the short term means potentially missing out on top four, and now they're going to probably miss out on top four as things stand. I mean, if you think Arsenal's fixture list is tough, they've got, I think, even tougher fixtures. And by the way, they do have Chelsea. It hasn't been rearranged.
Right. So that was
So they have Chelsea left as well. So they got Chelsea, they got Liverpool, they got Arsenal. Obviously, Brentford is a tough game, and Palace away last day of the season. That's not going to be easy. So they've got a tough set of fixtures, really tough set of fixtures from now to the end of the season. There's at least three games in there that they're going to drop points, and that's for them only seven games left.
They're dropping points to Everton at the moment.
Exactly.
I mean, they're probably going to drop more than that.
Exactly. So I think at the moment, with Man United, with the quality they have, they could turn it around. You never know. But at the moment, the way they're playing, you got to rule them out. You can't almost rule them out because we're 6 points ahead of them. This weekend they have, I think it might be Norwich, actually, to be fair. Is it? Yeah, Norwich. No, they're not. Yeah, Norwich this weekend. Yeah,
Norwich and then Liverpool away.
And then Liverpool in the midweek, because that's the game in hand. That's
right.
Not game in hand. That's Liverpool in the Cup semi, aren't they?
Yeah, Liverpool playing Man City this weekend. So
then after Norwich, they got Liverpool, United, Arsenal, and Brentford.
Wow.
So 3 very tough games. Whether they'll win though, how many wins they'll get, I can't see them getting more than one win in those over the next 3. So we could be out of sight by the time they play.
Do you think, with these two clubs, with Man United, with Arsenal, with the way they've both fallen off, is it down to inexperience? Is that what the crux of the issues are with both these clubs?
Not for United. You can't say it's down to inexperience. I don't know how you can. They've got a very experienced team.
They've got an experienced team, but I know they've got a pretty inexperienced manager in terms of actually being a manager. Hasn't managed for a long time. Never managed in the Premier League.
I don't think experience is the thing, because he's been manager of Leipzig, where I think he took them into Champions League football. I think
anywhere he's been, he hasn't been there for a long time. It's always been short stints here.
When he got to, I remember when he was. I don't remember that great Schalke team 10 years ago when they got in the final in the Champions League. I'm just saying he has experience, though. Experience isn't the issue. I don't think it's experience. It's maybe he's been out of the game for so long in terms of manager. It's tough to just turn it on, especially in such a big job. But I don't think for Man United it's experience. They got Ronaldo up front, for God's sake. I don't think it's experience that's holding them back. I just think it's a cohesive. I think it's just the manager is the problem, and I think they need a world-class manager in there who's going to have the authority in the dressing room to get everyone playing how he wants to and get a system in place. They've got no identity as a team at the moment, Man United. From Arsenal's point of view, I think there's a good case to say it's inexperience in terms of managing these kind of run-ins, making sure, even though you've been consistent for a long time, staying consistent, even beyond that, and making sure that, even though you've got injuries and managing the squad and all these things, and I think they've just been found wanting of late in that kind of criteria. So yeah, I think from Arsenal's point of view, because they're a very young team, the youngest in the league. So I think inexperience definitely, and the manager, it's his first. It was interesting. I can't remember who I was listening to, but I think it was someone on. Some Arsenal fan, or maybe on TalkSport or something, he goes, we signed Arteta on the back of him being the Pep Guardiola's assistant manager at Man City, and that's his CV for being the Arsenal manager. He's like, could you name me the Man City assistant manager now? Could you? Do you know who it is? I don't know who it is. No. Would you give him the Spurs job, or would you give him the Arsenal job?
Arteta was never a good appointment. I think it was always, the inexperience was always going to show. It really is. And I couldn't believe that they actually hired him with the massive job that was on there, massive rebuild. Yeah, and to be fair to him, with the experience that he has, he's actually done well this season.
This season, yeah.
Two eighth places in the last 2 years, but, it looks like they're going to finish a bit higher than that this season.
But
So,
the thing is with,
there are comparisons to be made, because when we had the Poch team, we had the youngest team in the Premier League then, right? and we were getting fourth on a consistent basis. But the difference between that team and the difference between this Arsenal team is we had dots of experience dotted around that tour. We had Hugo Lloris in goal. We had Jan and Toby at centre-back. We had Moussa Dembele.
I think that's the thing. I think it's the key positions where you need experience. The thing is with Arsenal right now, I think for Tottenham, they had a young team but a very experienced spine.
Yeah.
You know, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, Lloris in goal, very experienced.
Dembele,
Dembele, Wanyama was fairly experienced at that time. He wasn't so young as well at that time. You obviously, I know the front players were young, but I think you can get away with it more in the forward areas. But in the back line, we were much more experienced. We had that
young
spine
players to do the running. That's
exactly,
what we had. And we had the kind of experienced players to be that solid ground for us.
And I think Arsenal as well. But also, we never had a season like this for Arsenal where we were out of Europe and we had just one game a week to focus on, and we were out of all the cups very early. That's never really happened to us under Poch, because even though we never won anything, we got to far in the cups very often. Like in his first season, we got to the cup final, didn't we? We lost to Chelsea.
Cup, yeah.
We lost in the Carabao Cup to Chelsea.
Didn't we go out Europe and FA Cups quite early in the first few years?
Europe, we lost to Fiorentina round of 32 in his first season. Then we
Ghent the year after.
And then year after we lost to Dortmund in the last 16 of the Europa, because we beat Fiorentina the following year in the round of 32, and then we lost to Dortmund.
The year after we went out Champions League group stage, then lost again.
Yeah, year after we lost. Yeah, but we still had European football though.
Yeah,
we still had it for the majority until February, March. Arsenal have had free midweeks from pretty much the whole season. They've had they haven't had double. How many 2 game weeks have Arsenal had this season?
Not many.
You can probably count on one hand. I'm guessing. I don't know, but you can probably count on one hand. I'm going to guess.
And he took that for granted a bit, and he said to the club in January, I only need 13, 14 players from now to the end of the season, and that's come back to bite them in the arse massively.
I think so. Because I remember. Do you remember what I was saying in January? As much as it might feel like the right thing to do to let Aubameyang go, which it might still be. I said I just looked at the example of Tevez for Man City. He was a player who was cast aside for the whole season, pretty much because he refused to play. There was like one game he refused to play against Bayern Munich, and then he was cast aside all the way up until April. He wasn't even in a match day squad. He was away playing golf or something, wasn't he, in some other country? And then what happened? Man City started, although they didn't need him for the majority of the season. There came a time in April where they started to falter. I think they lost a few games, and all of a sudden their title charge started to falter. And what do? They said, "All right, Tevez, look, we haven't seen eye to eye this season. We've you've been playing golf, but we need you now. We need you to come in and save our season." And he did that. He came in, he scored a bucket load of goals in the last 5 games of the season, and he helped Man City to the title. And he actually stayed for another year before going over to Juventus. And I felt like Arsenal, if they weren't going to sign a replacement, they're better off keeping Aubameyang around, trying, even though it's not working. Okay, even if you're not going to play him for like a month or two, and just out of principle, when you need him, there might be a time like right now that you need him to, and you might put everything aside and say, look, we know we've had our differences. You turned up late to training, blah blah blah, but we need you now. We need you to score some goals for us because we're struggling. We're struggling to score, and now they don't even have that option to do that. Now they've forgot that option. They've got rid of that option and they're just relying on what they have. They're relying on Nketiah and Lacazette, and that's not going to be enough to save them. I don't think at this point.
The fact of the matter,
but imagine now that they had Aubameyang to come in. That could be something that could be dangerous if they had Aubameyang to come in right now.
The fact of the matter is that since Aubameyang has gone to Barcelona, he scored 10 goals. In that time, Arsenal scored 12 goals.
Yeah,
the proof is in the pudding there.
But I'm saying it could reinvigorate them.
Of course,
if Aubameyang, let's say, started against Hampden and got a couple of goals, and all of a sudden there's a feel-good factor around again. But they don't have that option.
Put the ball in the back of the net. They don't have that.
Yeah, and I think they might have screwed up in that aspect.
Do you think, in hindsight, that Arsenal might regret treating Emre the way they did?
I said that a while ago. that I think Emre did a much better job than Arsenal fans give him credit for, because he finished fifth and got to Europa League final in his first season. And then obviously it went a bit sour in the second season, but I believe they were 8th place and like something like 6.5 or 6 points off top 4 when they sacked him. Obviously it didn't look great on paper, but the Arteta the next season went on like an 8-game losing streak and they kept him after that. So they could have easily sacked him. On the basis of they sacked Emre. So I think look at Unai Emery now. I know Villarreal in the league are like 7th or something, but their squad really isn't nothing to write home about. And they're
got a bunch of Tottenham and Arsenal rejects.
And they've just played Bayern Munich off the park in the Champions League. They won Europa League last season. By the way, he is amazing in Europe. Emre. He's like, I don't know what he does in Europe, but he is unbelievable. He's unbelievable. He's won 3 Europa Leagues. He got to the final with Arsenal, I think, and then he won another one with Villarreal. The only time he really disgraced himself in the Champions League, he was 4-0 up against Barcelona, and then they gave it away. But he was still 4-0 up
for PSG. Yeah.
Yeah, for PSG. Like, still, I know, it was embarrassing to lose, but he still beat them 4-0 in the first leg, which is impressive in itself. I know that, and then they obviously went on to do 6-1 in the second leg.
You can't put all the blame on Emre for that second leg.
Considering how many times they've fallen apart since then.
Exactly. Not only that, but, he's done a brilliant job in getting them 4-0 up in the first leg. Like, surely the players got to take some accountability for that second leg as well.
Yeah, of course they do. And considering how it's gone since. And also, that was PSG side without Mbappe or no Mbappe or Neymar or Messi or anything like that, wasn't it? They just had Cavani and Draxler, and still not bad players, but still, like he's been I think he's completely was ridiculed by not only the Arsenal fans but English media as well, because he kept saying good evening and stuff like that.
Good evening.
But I actually think they got rid of him way too soon, and they panicked when they got rid of him. Emre said, I don't know if you saw his interview recently, he said that the Arsenal board, when they sacked him, believed in him and actually thought he was doing a good job, but he said the pressure from the Arsenal fans was so strong they had to sack him. Wow. That's what he said, but obviously he's gonna want to promote his side of the story, isn't he? So
that was the case. I mean, I did think that at a time, Emre, he did lose the dressing room.
Well, yeah, he was on a bad run of form when he got sacked. There's no doubt about that. But has Arteta ever had as good a season as finishing 5th in the Europa League final? He hasn't done that, has he?
He has won the FA Cup, to be fair.
He did win the FA Cup, but still, it's probably harder to finish 5th and get to a European final than it is to finish 8th and win an FA Cup, I would say.
Arteta, I mean, he's lost 12 of his last 45 Premier League games at home. Arsene Wenger lost 12 of his last 116 Premier League games at home. Which is actually mad.
Yeah, they've lost a lot, haven't they? Because a lot of it was down to last season. They lost a lot of home games, and so yeah, I mean, Arsenal, we'll have to wait and see. Look, still a lot to play for, and if they turn it around and they can, if they overtake us from this point, you got to say fair play to them, because they have to win a lot of difficult games to do that, and we're gonna have to fall apart. But
yeah.
Right now,
only fall apart how we know Tottenham can.
And we know we can, but right now it's not looking good for the red side of North London, that's for sure. And then when it comes to West Ham, lost to Brentford yesterday, and from what I could see, they were very lethargic. And that was expected, wasn't it? What did we say from the beginning of the season? They're a good team, but they won't last the distance. They don't have the squad for it. They got European football. They're going to be too stretched, and when push comes to shove, they'll fall. And there's no surprise that they're starting to falter at the moment.
I mean, they lose pretty much every week after European games.
Yeah, and look, and we'll see how they do this week against Lyon. If they win, to be fair, being Sevilla and Lyon, they've got to be one of the favourites for the Europa League. I know they still got Barcelona in there. But,
yeah, I mean, you got to back Barcelona against them, surely.
I know, but they've beaten Sevilla and Lyon, so no pushovers, are they?
Yeah, I think Lyon are going to do a job on them Thursday night, though.
But yeah, look,
I thought Lyon were all right in the first leg. It wasn't.
Yeah, they were down to 10 men, weren't they? West Ham,
yeah, they were.
But look, we're in a strong position, and it was the perfect weekend from results wise. It couldn't have gone any better. It just follows. It's like a reaction to that weekend when we lost to United and every other team won, didn't they? And then at that point it looked awful. But we've kept plugging away. We won 4 on the trot now, playing brilliant football, scoring goals for fun. Kane is dominating games without even having to score. Son is looking like he could be battling Salah for the Golden Boot,
which is mad.
It's going really well for Tottenham. We just got to keep it up right now, and we got to make sure we keep our consistency and don't take our eye off the ball. And starting with this weekend with Brighton at home, we just saw what Brighton did, and we got to make sure that we got to make sure that we don't take our eye off the ball. That's the main thing. Because Arsenal did, and see what happened. They, even though Brighton lost 6 and drawn 1 of their last 7, they still lost at home to Brighton. And we got to make sure that we don't allow Brighton to do that against us.
Absolutely. So Spurs firmly in the driving seat, but we all know this too well, that there's still a while to go. 6-7 games left of this season, and we need to stay in the same mentality that we got, and we need to keep on this same path, because we know how quickly things can change in football. But having said that, it was the most perfect weekend for Tottenham just gone.